Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Contender. I'm your host, Congresswoman Erin Houchin, and today we have the honor of speaking with a true champion in the Senate. She has been a fierce advocate for conservative values and a strong voice for Tennessee. Please welcome Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, thank you so much for joining us today.
Delighted to join you. Thank you.
Well, you've had a remarkable career in both the House and now in the Senate. Could you start off by just sharing with us what inspired you to run initially for the House and led you to step into public service?
Yes, and I had always been involved. I grew up in a family that was involved. No one had ever run for office and nobody ever held office, but true community participants. And as my husband and I were in business and working and involved with children, we realized how incredibly important it was that we have good people in office. As we were in Tennessee, our community was growing, and you want to make certain that it's going to grow the right way, and that you're going to be able to attract businesses that are going to help you build a multi-generational community and provide for people. And as I was working through the Republican Party and politics, and never thought I would be a candidate, and we were trying to find someone to run for a state Senate seat, and everybody said, you should do this. You've helped with all of this at the church, you've helped with this at the school, you've helped with this at the chamber and in the community, so you should do this. So we ran and we won, and in the state Senate I led what was a 4-year battle against imposition of a state income tax in Tennessee. We won that fight. The people of the state were the ones that won that fight. And Tennessee is income tax free. We'll never have a state income tax. And as we finished that fight, then a congressional seat opened up and decided to make that move and run for that seat. And of course served there and now serving in the Senate.
So I wish we had no income tax in Indiana like in Tennessee. We do lose certain people from our state to yours because of that.
That's right.
We know that public transitory behavior, people move to areas of lower tax base, and so you've been the beneficiary,
absolutely.
and Tennessee has been
with their feet.
the beneficiary of that. So kudos to you for that work. We hope to get it in Indiana at some point. Your journey is very similar to mine. I was elected to the state Senate before coming to the House. What's the difference between the House and the Senate? Are you, is it remarkably different in the work that you're doing now versus when you were in the House?
I have a great appreciation for the House, having served there. And as we look at legislation, and as we want to get legislation moving, we always think in terms of who would be a proper sponsor for this in the House.
That's a very important question to answer,
yes,
as we'll talk about later.
Yes, because you want to make certain that someone is going to put the effort and energy into passing a bill. And early in my House career, I realized how important it was to establish that relationship early in the process so that the bill that you file and move forward on in the House is going to be taken up in the Senate. And certainly we did that with the 21st Century Cures legislation. We did it with the Music Modernization Act. We did it with the Ray Bombs Act, which was a telecommunications bill. So important pieces like that. I learned that it is important to have that House sponsor, that Senate sponsor, and be working that bill every step of the way, because the goal is to get good legislation to the president's desk and get it signed into law. And as we know, it's going to take bipartisan votes to get something across the finish line.
Well, one of the things I want to talk about with you with today is the Kids Online Safety Act. and that is a bill that you've been championing long before I got involved. Could you talk to us a little bit about what your intentions are for what you would like the bill to do? Why is it necessary? Of course, I am passionate about it as you are, but our listeners may or may not know about the Kids Online Safety Act. So yes. Why is this such an important issue to you? And talk to us a little bit about the process of finding a Democrat to support it, and then the work
Absolutely.
to get it through the House.
Absolutely. And Senator Blumenthal was on the Judiciary Committee Technology Task Force in 2019. And we were working on issues that were beginning to bubble up around big tech. Things such as privacy, data security, Section 230, data mining, some of those issues. And as we did that, we established a good working relationship. And the task force was completely bipartisan. Then in 2020, in the elections, the Senate is taken by the Democrats. So Blumenthal ends up as chairman of the Consumer Protection Data Security Subcommittee at Commerce, and I'm the top Republican. So we continued this work of looking at big tech and seeing where they needed to be reined in and what kind of guardrails we needed to be putting on the internet. The interesting thing is, as we did this, we started to hear from people about children and the data mining that was happening on children. And we decided to do some hearings and focus on what was happening to children in the virtual space. And after the first hearing that we did, it was as if we all of a sudden hit a tipping point with people in the country, and they started to contact us and say, I want to tell you my story. And I heard from moms from coast to coast saying, I want to tell you what happened to my child. And all of a sudden, we had these stories. So we continued to do hearings. We did 5 hearings that focused on drilling deep on what was happening in the virtual space. As we did this, we started to hear not only from more parents, we also started to hear from whistleblowers. And they would say, look, the social media platforms know that they are using kids as a product. The social media platforms are collecting their data. They are doing data mining on them. There is no policing. They know this is causing harms, suicidal ideation, cyberbullying. From their own research, they knew it, but they're so money hungry, they are not working with you all, and they're not putting any guardrails in place.
There was no, what we call in the bill, a duty of care on the side of
Not at
the
all.
tech companies to...
No, kids were the product. The longer they could keep the child online, then the richer the data. And it was a cash flow for them. And they had assigned a value of what it would be for a year's worth of profit per child. And so they had no intention of making a change. But because of that, that moved us to begin writing and drafting the Kids Online Safety Act.
When it came to me, your office reached out and said, is this something that Congresswoman Houchin might be interested in doing? And I had my own personal experience with my 13-year-old daughter, that she was able to access Instagram. She was messaging people all over the world, thinking she's messaging 13 and 14-year-old boys and girls, and she had access to the platform all hours of the night, even though we had monitoring software on her phone. So even if I wanted to as a parent, because some people listening might say, well, it's really a parent's responsibility. Even if I wanted to as a parent, because of what the tech companies were doing, I had no ability to really, truly protect her from that. Now, we took away all of her devices. We locked her down, right, in terms of keeping her, it was through the summer, so I didn't have to worry about her going to school and getting access and all that. But after the fact, she said, thank you for doing that. I couldn't, I needed you to take that from me. So I just really appreciate your work on the Kids Online Safety Act. Thank you for pitching it to us. I know it passed the Senate 91-3.
That's right.
That's amazing. That's a testament to the work that you have done on this bill already. We are continuing to work on it in the House, but I do appreciate your great leadership on it.
Well, we are grateful for your leadership on it and trying to help move it forward. And as we, pardon me, as we continue to work with those in the House and to answer questions that they've had about it. This is a product design bill. There are safety standards on every product that you buy, and consumer product safety, and people expect that. However, in the virtual space, there are no safety standards on social media platforms. In the physical world, there are laws that say you cannot sell alcohol to a minor, nor can you sell tobacco, nor can you sell pornography to a minor. But online, they can see it all day long. And you can't take a child into a casino because of the addictive nature of that. You can't let a child gamble. And they're online, they can do that. They can get into it. So they're exposed 24/7, 365 to all of these items that in the physical world, there are laws against it. And so our approach has been, all right, big tech, we need you to step up, to do safety by design, to have a duty of care, to open up your algorithms, to provide that toolbox for parents and kids so that they can manage all of their settings and block some of these algorithms. And we want to make certain there is a portal so that parents and kids can report bad actors and get them off the platform. So it's a good piece of legislation. And I know there are some that say, oh, this is something that would infringe on free speech. But I think that when they say that, I remind them, free speech is not yelling fire in a crowded theater, nor is it free speech to expose a child to self-harm. And this goes after self-harm, eating disorders, suicidal ideation, the drug dealers, the pedophiles, the human traffickers. And it is a very narrowly tailored and very specific bill.
It's a great piece of legislation. I hope we're able to move it in the House.
Yes.
Curious, what stakeholder groups have been engaged in the conversation? I know that I have heard from many parents of children who have lost their lives to some of the online challenges that we've seen, like the choking challenge, other things that have been very harmful. So what stakeholder groups are behind it that you have found to be, champions with you in the cause?
Yes, we have had some fabulous parents, teachers, pediatricians. We've got great kids, and hundreds of organizations have come out in support of it, and thousands of parents and kids have come out in support. This week I got a letter from Governor Mike Huckabee, who has written a letter in support of what we are doing with the Kids Online Safety Act.
That's great. So recently you led a resolution to recognize American girls in sports.
Oh, yes.
That has been an issue I hear a whole lot about, making sure that we protect girls' sports for girls. Why was that issue so important to you?
I think that looking at Title IX and the doors of opportunity it has opened for women, When that was signed into law in 1972, we had fewer than 300,000 female student athletes in the country. And today, at the 50-year mark, we have north of 3 million female student athletes. So it shows you girls enjoy sports. And what we are doing is taking October 10th month, 10th day, Roman numerals XX, and celebrating that as American Girls in Sports Day. And we're trying to get that resolution through the Senate. We have a House sponsor. Elise Stefanik is the House sponsor, and we think it's going to sail through the House.
I believe it would sail through the House. On our side, we have a lot of support for protecting women's sports, and we've passed our own legislation, but I do hope we see that on our side. I'd be happy to support it. XX is not, that's not lost on us, right, about why
Right.
that was picked, but that's pretty
That's
cool.
right.
That's pretty awesome.
Right.
This podcast is called The Contender. We call it that because it's about identifying and championing people who really go after things against pretty high odds and are successful. For me personally, it has been our family motto. It has grounded our kids and our family to be contend for our faith, but also contend in everything that we do. I'd just like to ask you before we wrap up, if there's a contender in your life, someone who has inspired you in your public service, could you tell us a story about who that is and why they're a contender for you?
Oh my goodness, there are so many people that I would look at. And I think we all have those special people who encourage us at different times in our life. I tell people all the time, don't refuse an open door. You don't know why God opened that door. So be prepared to walk through that door. And there are people that encourage you along the way, that give you that nudge that you need to go through that. And parents, teachers, Sunday school teachers, ministers, friends, and in public service, many times it is the people we represent that really nudge us, that come to us and tell us their stories. A Gold Star family that has lost someone, and to them, it is so vitally important that we continue to remember. Angel families that have lost someone and have lost a family member to an incident with an illegal alien, and they're never going to get, they're going to grieve this the rest of their life. Veterans who have served our family, our country so honorably, and they struggle to get the health care and the benefits that they need, and they encourage us when we're able to help them resolve those issues, and they remember that kindness and that help. And I'm just so grateful that we can do it. Every time we resolve one of those issues, it causes me to want to work that much harder for the people of Tennessee.
I love that you brought the contenders. Those are all great examples of contenders that you've mentioned. Just really incredible. And I find in my own public service that the best ideas for legislation come from the stories that we hear from the people that we represent. So thank you for drawing attention to that. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today on the Contender podcast. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
I've so enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. I look forward to our work
Yes.
together.
Absolutely.
I think we make a pretty good team.
Absolutely. Let's get COSA passed.
Let's get it done. Thank you. Well, thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to this episode of The Contender. Be sure to stay with us for more insightful conversations with the leaders who are shaping our future. Don't forget to subscribe, share the podcast, and stay inspired to contend, work hard, and have fun. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time.